At 0341 UTC on March 13, 2026, a B-2 Spirit released its payload over Kharg Island, the terminal through which 90% of Iran's oil exports flow. Over 12 hours, more than 90 military targets were systematically destroyed, including naval mine bunkers, missile tunnels, and command centers, reduced to 15-meter craters. Satellite imagery revealed something just as significant as the destruction itself: no thermal bloom over the oil terminals. Not a single storage tank was touched. The United States did not strike Iran's most critical export hub to collapse its economy. It struck to demonstrate something far more strategically dangerous. Impact points across Kharg Island form a clear pattern. Analysts mapped 3 dense clusters of destruction: the southern sector, where naval mine bunkers once lined the shore; the western plateau, home to missile tunnels and launch cells; and the central ridge, which hosted command, control, and communication centers. Each coordinate corresponds to a hardened military asset: storage depots, radar domes, or fortified bunkers, now registering as fresh craters or collapsed structures in post-strike satellite imagery. The mine storage facilities in the south, previously used to arm the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps naval units for operations in the Gulf, show total loss of roof integrity and exposed reinforced concrete. On the western edge, missile silos and underground launch corridors display subsidence and angular blast signatures, consistent with deep penetrating ordnance. The central command nodes, spaced along the island's interior ridgeline, were systematically neutralized, with electronic intercepts confirming a blackout of encrypted traffic after the first wave. Notably, the oil terminal complex, visible as a dense array of cylindrical tanks and steel loading arms on the northern shoreline, remains untouched. No evidence of secondary fires, no fragmentation scars, and no heat signatures on the main export berths. The deliberate separation between military and civilian infrastructure is unmistakable. Every confirmed strike falls within a 2-kilometer buffer zone from the oil facilities, underscoring the operational intent to neutralize Iran's ability to threaten maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, while preserving the economic artery that sustains the regime. The geospatial footprint of the operation reveals a campaign of surgical precision, designed to degrade military leverage without triggering a global oil crisis. Blast analysis from the Kharg Island operation centers on the geometry and timing of each crater. The largest impact, logged precisely at 0341 UTC, corresponds to a B-2 Spirit release over the western missile bunker complex. Forensic measurement of the resulting cavity, 15 meters in diameter with radial spall and a sharply defined lip, matches the expected profile of a 2,000-pound bunker penetration weapon detonating several meters below ground. Adjacent structures show concentric fracture lines and uplifted concrete, confirming that the shockwave propagated through reinforced sublevels before venting upward. Intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets tracked the weapon's trajectory from release to its terminal phase, with timestamp telemetry aligning to the crater's formation within a margin of seconds. Elsewhere on the island, secondary craters at the southern mine depots exhibit a shallower blast cone but similar debris dispersal, consistent with JDAM-class munitions targeting roofed storage. No evidence of sympathetic detonation is present. Stored munitions did not ignite, indicating the ordnance was calibrated to breach containment without triggering secondary explosions. Electronic intercepts confirm that command nodes went offline within 90 seconds of the first penetrator strike. Post-strike infrared scans reveal no residual heat signatures outside the immediate blast zones. The absence of fire damage or scorched terrain near the oil terminal further validates claims of selective targeting. Every crater aligns with a mapped military asset, and the timing of impacts, sequenced in staggered intervals, demonstrates a deliberate pacing designed to maximize bunker penetration while minimizing collateral effects. The physical evidence leaves little ambiguity. The strike package achieved deep structural neutralization of hardened targets, with precision metrics that support the official account of a surgical bunker-busting campaign. Precision on Kharg Island depended on a layered toolset engineered for discrimination at the meter scale. Strike planners relied on real-time sensor fusion, combining satellite electro-optical feeds, airborne synthetic aperture radar, and persistent infrared scans to map target signatures and thermal boundaries before weapon release. A weapons effects officer from the 509th Bomb Wing confirmed that each B-2 sortie uploaded an updated exclusion grid into its fire control system, automatically geofencing the oil terminal complex and civilian support zones. The munitions themselves, a mix of GBU-53B, small diameter bombs, and JDAMERs, were programmed with hardened target fusing and terminal guidance that locked onto radar reflective bunkers while rejecting heat plumes from oil tanks. AI-enabled target deconfliction ran in parallel, scrubbing strike lists for any asset within the 2-kilometer buffer. During the heaviest wave, telemetry logs show that bomb release points were recalculated mid-flight to account for shifting wind and atmospheric density, further tightening the error margin. Post-strike thermal imagery, analyzed by independent weapons assessors, revealed zero anomalous heat bloom over the oil farm, no secondary fires, no overpressure damage, no fuel vapor ignition. The absence of even minor fragmentation scars on the export berths stands as evidence of deliberate restraint. According to the weapons effects officer, this was not luck or chance. Every impact was sequenced to minimize sympathetic detonation risk, with blast envelopes modeled to collapse bunkers inward rather than venting laterally toward the tank clusters. The technical feasibility of isolating and destroying military assets without collateral is now documented in the crater geometry, the absence of oil fires, and the clean separation between ruined bunkers and untouched export infrastructure. Kharg Island operates as the fulcrum of Iran's oil economy. Nearly 90% of all Iranian crude, about 1.1 to 1.5 million barrels per day, in the spring of 2026, moves through this single terminal. The storage tanks, clustered less than 500 meters from the northern shoreline, hold up to 10 million barrels at any given time, creating a buffer against short-term disruptions, but also a single point of failure. 4 deep-water berths line the export complex, able to moor Aframax and supertanker classes, with loading arms feeding directly from the island's main pipeline grid. From the Abu Zar and Firuzan fields, crude travels through subsea and onshore lines, reaching Kharg's tanks in under 15 minutes at peak flow rates. The National Iranian Oil Company, through its subsidiary TC, maintains strict operational control. Official NIOC figures, echoed by spokespeople in Tehran, stress that Kharg's daily throughput accounts for roughly $80 to $120 million in export revenue each day, revenue that underwrites government payrolls, military procurement, and critical imports. The civilian workforce on the island numbers between 2,500 and 3,000, with logistics teams working in shifts around the clock to keep the flow uninterrupted. Secondary ports, Bandar Abbas and Khorramshahr, can together handle no more than 400,000 barrels per day, making them insufficient substitutes if Kharg is disabled. This concentration of capacity turns the island into both a shield and a lever. Preserving its operation allows the regime to finance its war effort, while any credible threat to Kharg's export flow immediately ripples through global oil markets and insurance rates. In this calculus, every barrel that leaves Kharg is both a lifeline for Tehran and a bargaining chip in the wider contest over the Strait of Hormuz. Tanker traffic departing Kharg Island enters the Strait of Hormuz in under 35 minutes, a narrow transit window that magnifies both risk and leverage. At a sustained pace of 12 to 14 knots, each loaded vessel clears the Kharg Channel and approaches the global choke point with little room for error or delay. This proximity means that any disruption, whether from mines, missile launches, or even the threat of interdiction, can halt the flow of nearly 1.5 million barrels of crude per day. Energy strategists point to $13 billion in monthly export revenue that depends on these uninterrupted passages. The loss of Kharg's capacity, even for a week, would force Iran to reroute through secondary ports with shallow drafts, instantly slashing national income and global supply. The operational calculus is stark. Preserving the oil terminal keeps the regime solvent. But any credible threat to the transit corridor triggers insurance surges, rerouting, and market volatility far beyond the Gulf. The deliberate precision of the U.S. strikes, destroying mine depots and missile bunkers while leaving the export complex untouched, was designed to maintain this delicate equilibrium. By neutralizing the tools of maritime coercion without igniting an oil crisis, the operation underscored how control of a single island translates into leverage over both regional security and the global energy market. The logic is as much about signaling as about destruction. The ability to hold Kharg at risk without actually severing the artery creates a powerful bargaining chip in the wider contest for the Strait. Open source intelligence groups took on the challenge of auditing the Kharg Island operations' headline claims. Their process started with CENTCOM released KMZ and GOJSON files, each impact point logged by UTC timestamp, munition type, and assessed effect. Independent analysts from Bellingcat and FireEye cross-referenced these with commercial satellite change detection mosaics and automatic identification system records for the Gulf. The resulting verification ledger does not simply accept official numbers. It matches each claim to physical evidence and digital signatures. The core assertion, over 90 military targets destroyed in a 12-hour window, is supported by a minute-by-minute overlay of crater locations and before and after imagery. The ledger shows that every listed strike site corresponds to a hardened military structure, missile silos, mine storage depots, and command bunkers. 92 features in the KMZ align with Maxar and Planet Labs' change detect data, confirming that each impact point reflects a genuine structural loss. Electronic warfare intercepts released in the public domain reveal a 99% drop in encrypted traffic from Kharg within the first 2 hours, supporting the claim that command and control was neutralized early in the operation. Expanding the audit to the broader campaign, open source teams compared CENTCOM's figure of 15,000 total targets struck across Iran to satellite and radar datasets. Change detection analysis across the Gulf region identified roughly 4,600 unique structures with verifiable damage signatures, far short of the official tally. Analysts note that the higher number likely includes small, soft targets, invisible to space-based sensors, such as mobile missile launchers or temporary logistics sites. The 90% degradation of the Iranian Navy, however, finds strong support. AIS and SAR data confirm that 62 of 67 known surface combatants, including 21 frigates and 19 corvettes, have gone silent or show visible destruction. Press releases and satellite images together document the loss of 60 ships and all 30 identified mine-laying vessels. Missile launch activity, another key metric, dropped from 219 launches in January and February to just 12 in the week following the Kharg strike, a 94% reduction verified by NATO's open-source launch monitoring network. The OSINT ledger flags the 15,000 target claim as uncorroborated, but finds the Navy and missile suppression figures well supported by independent data. The audit builds a credibility matrix where satellite, AIS, and electronic intercepts converge. The operational results stand on solid ground. In areas where only official statements exist, caution remains the watchword. 2,200 Marines now operate within rapid reach of the Gulf. The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit embarked aboard the USS Tripoli, arrived on station with its full air wing and amphibious assault group intact. The Tripoli's flight deck hosts a mixed squadron of F-35B short takeoff and vertical landing fighters, and MV-22 Ospreys, giving commanders both stealth strike and rapid lift in a single package. The F-35Bs extend the Marines' reach to nearly 200 nautical miles from the ship, covering every approach to Kharg Island, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Iranian coastline. The unit's commander, Colonel Eric Landry, is tasked with maintaining a posture that signals both readiness and restraint. His reinforced battalion landing team drills daily for ship-to-shore operations, but the focus remains on deterrence, visible, mobile, and backed by the threat of precision air power. The Tripoli's aviation combat element is designed for flexible response, able to launch a strike package against coastal missile batteries, insert reconnaissance teams ashore, or conduct combat search and rescue, all within a single sortie cycle. Supporting the Tripoli, the amphibious ready group includes the USS Vicksburg and the fast attack submarine USS Gurnard, building out a layered defense against both surface and subsurface threats. The presence of 3 F-35 variants in the theater, Air Force A models, Navy carrier-based C models, and Marine B models creates a web of fused sensors and overlapping strike options. This force posture is not just about overwhelming firepower. It is a message to Tehran. And every Gulf capital, the United States can project combat power across the entire region, sustain operations at sea for weeks, and control the tempo of escalation. The Marines' arrival closes the window for Iranian mine-laying, amphibious harassment, or missile salvos from the coast. Every movement on Kharg and along the strait now unfolds under the watchful reach of American expeditionary forces, their options visible, their intent unmistakable. The World Health Organization Regional Office confirmed only 2 admissions at the island's medical center on March 13th, both attributed to shrapnel wounds. No fatalities have been independently verified. Iranian state media offered no alternate figures, and civil defense authorities declined to release further details. On the streets of Tehran and Avaz, small clusters of protesters gathered, as captured in short video clips circulating on Telegram and Instagram. These scenes show students chanting anti-government slogans and holding banners referencing Kharg, but geolocation and crowd size remain inconclusive. Counter-rallies organized by Basij units materialized within hours, filling central squares with regime flags and orchestrated chants. Political analysts point to a growing pattern. The regime faces pressure points, not from mass casualties, but from the symbolic loss of military leverage and the visible presence of unrest in urban centers. The muted casualty count, paired with the regime's rapid mobilization of loyalist rallies, suggests a government intent on projecting stability, even as cracks appear. A World Health Organization official, speaking on background, noted the absence of mass trauma admissions, but cautioned that hospital access in outlying regions remains restricted. For now, the evidence of unrest is fragmentary, visible, but not yet decisive. Security strategists now face a horizon crowded with unknowns. The immediate aftermath of the Kharg Island operation saw war risk insurance premiums for Gulf-bound tankers spike by up to 20%, as underwriters recalibrated the odds of a sudden escalation. Commercial operators pressed for naval escort, reviving proposals for multinational convoy systems, reminiscent of the Hormuz missions in 2019. U.S. planners tabled the concept of a standing escort corridor, an armed corridor guarded by destroyers and supported by persistent aerial surveillance, stretching from the Kharg Channel through the Strait of Hormuz. At the same time, defense contractors began deploying artificial intelligence-driven underwater detection nets, weaving a digital web across likely mine-laying zones to counter Iran's remaining underwater threats. Yet, for all this visible security, 3 questions dominate the strategic debate. First, can the regime, deprived of its hardened military assets on Kharg, still marshal enough asymmetric pressure through drones, mines, or covert sabotage to keep shipping at risk? Second, will the prospect of a multinational escort fleet provoke new forms of retaliation or deter further Iranian action? And third, with the oil terminals left untouched, does Tehran retain the economic leverage to ride out a prolonged campaign? Or will internal unrest and currency shocks force a recalibration? Each variable hangs in the balance, and no detection net or convoy plan can guarantee that the next move will not redraw the map of Gulf security. Precision targeting reshaped the battlefield, but escalation risks remain. With 90% of Iran's oil exports still flowing, the regime's leverage endures, yet its conventional arsenal lies shattered. As U.S. forces control the tempo at sea, Tehran must now rely on asymmetric tactics and domestic resilience. The next strike may not be as surgical, and the balance of power in the Gulf is at stake. What happens next determines more than OEL.